Hello, my name is Robert Allen, and today we're going to talk about the $1 million to-do list. Now, you've heard about to-do lists before, but what we're going to talk about today is going to be so different than what you expect. The $1 million to-do list is going to be worth $1 million to you if you'll just do what I teach you how to do over the next few minutes. It could change your life. Well, who am I and why are we talking today? Well, I'm a #1 New York Times best-selling author of some very famous books on money. Nothing Down, Creating Wealth, Multiple Streams of Income, The 1 Minute Millionaire. You might have heard of those before. But this $1 million to-do list that we're going to be talking about today is not just about becoming a millionaire. It is about success in all areas of your life. Maybe you don't want to be a millionaire. You just want to have a tool that's worth $1 million so you can succeed at what you want to succeed at in your lifetime. So we're going to talk about that. But I want to remind you, this is going to be very, very different. So let's talk about you. I've talked a little bit about myself. What do you want in your life? Who are you? And why did you Google to find this? What is it that you wanted in your life that made you want to invest the time and money to be right here so perhaps we could converse together? What were you Googling and why? Is there a problem in your life? Some overwhelm you're feeling? Some particular challenge that you're facing and you're looking for a solution? Or maybe it's a dream that you have, something you want to accomplish, some particular vision you have about what your life could possibly be. Maybe that's who you are. Maybe that's why you Googled to find this. Well, whether it's a problem you're trying to overcome or a dream you're trying to achieve, these concepts will help you achieve that. And like I said, if you perceive and persist over this process over your lifetime and just learn these few simple tools, the benefits could be worth millions to you in your lifetime as you look at having confidence and having the overwhelm in your life gone and being focused and determined. You know, if you have all of those things, wow, what a different lifetime it could be for yourself. I want to teach you how to have what I call legendary thinking. And now, maybe you didn't want something that big. Maybe you just wanted to maybe make a little extra money this year. But I want you to be thinking like a legend thinks. And why would I say that? Because I've rubbed shoulders with legends. I've rubbed shoulders with people who have achieved incredible things in their lifetime. And they look like you and me. We're fairly ordinary, but when you look at what they've achieved in their life, you go, wow. And I get a chance behind the scenes to ask them questions that very few people get to ask. And I get to discover how they think and what drives them and what's the process of the to-do lists that they have in their life. And I can guarantee you the to-do lists that they do, that they use, totally different than the ordinary to-do lists that people talk about. Who are these legends? Well, there are people who've achieved great things in their life. But I'm not talking about just the great ones. I'm talking about the legends. And a legend is someone where you just say the first name and everybody in the world knows who it is. You say the word Michael, and lots of Michaels come to your mind that are legendary. You say the word Oprah. How many Oprahs are there? There's just one. You say the word Warren, and it's an old-fashioned name, but you lock in on who that is. And they have ways of thinking, and they have ways of doing that literally are very different. And so we'll be talking about that for you here today. And you might say to yourself, me, a legend? Well, yeah, I want you to be thinking that big. I want you to think beyond the small things you want to accomplish this year or 5 years. I want you to think in your lifetime. And I want you to look back over your lifetime and go, this was a legendary life. So there's a quote that I love, and I won't remember every single word of it, but this is the gist of it. It's by Arnold Toynbee. It's a paradoxical but profoundly true and important principle of life that the best way to achieve a goal is not by looking directly at that goal itself, but at some more ambitious goal beyond it. And so legendary, that's the ambitious goal. And if you achieve something shorter than that, then our time together will be worth well your time and mine. So let's talk about how you take the thinking of a legend and insert it into your life so that it becomes something that transforms the way you think. That's what we want to accomplish today. Now, there's one big secret that we want to talk about here, and that legends don't do to-do lists like ordinary people do to-do lists. Legends have a very different process that they go about. And frankly, it's a series of questions that they ask themselves, not a series of activities. Most ordinary people, they just write down the things they got to do that day. But legends, they ask themselves some powerful questions. And so today, I want to share with you 5 powerful questions that as you look at yourself in the mirror in the morning and you ask yourself these questions, the to-do list that you're going to create from it is going to be profoundly different than that ordinary, what are the things I got to do today, to-do list, okay? So question number 1 is, what do I really, really want? If you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're asking yourself that question, I want you to think about, what do I, not do I want today, little things, ordinary things, what do I really, really want for my life? Now, the Covey quote, you've heard this Covey quote dozens and dozens of times, to begin with the end in mind. Oh, that's a very powerful quote, but it doesn't go far enough. What do I mean by the end in mind? I want that end to be something so specific that it just sends signals to every cell in your body. We're going to kind of draw what I would call a clarity question that helps you focus exactly on what you're trying to accomplish. So let's just pretend this is you, and this is where you are in your life. And sometimes most of us feel like we're kind of boxed in with limiting beliefs and problems that we're dealing with today. And the question, what do I really, really want, is where you go out into the future and imagine something that's more ideal, the way, what I call your ideal lifestyle. What would it be like if the challenges and the problems that you've been dealing with, the things that box you in, what would it be like if that box was removed and you could literally look over the top of these fears that hold you back, and you could see your ideal lifestyle off in the future, and you could see what you really wanted to accomplish, and you could imagine living in your dream home, and you could imagine being healthy, and you could imagine having friends, and you can imagine having money if that's what you want. You can imagine that your life is ideal. And the question, what do you really, really want, is it forces you to rise above the challenges that you face today, because when you're in the middle of all the problems, it's hard to think clearly. If you've got things pressing in on you from all sides, you just can't have the kind of energy and the kind of clarity and the kind of peacefulness that you need in order to think through those challenges. So one of the things that we do is we go out in the future and imagine our ideal lifestyle. And there are some questions that you need to ask to make it more specific. Yeah, Covey was right. Begin with the end in mind. And if you're here, this is where you're beginning. But it needs to be more specific than that. It can't be just, I want to be financially free. What does your powerful brain do with that kind of a question? How do I become financially free? It's not specific enough. It doesn't answer that question, what do you want? Where do you want it? When do you want it? How are you going to get it? Who is going to help you accomplish that? Why? Why are you even thinking like this? Why are you even imagining this kind of lifestyle? What drives you? What's so important to you that this dream actually is something you're thinking about? If you don't have a clear image with some specificity, it's not enough to turn on that engine called your brain to seek out what it is that's going to help you get that. So the very first question, it's a very powerful, it's a very profound question. What do I really, really, really want? I mean, if you can take that concept and make it detailed, and then actually go there and imagine yourself being there. Even though you might be here, you're imagining. Imagine is a very, very powerful word. When you imagine it now, wherever you are, you immediately transport yourself into that future. And I want you to actually imagine that you're there. You're waking up in that home. You're walking up to the front door of that home. You're opening that home. This is your dream home. This is your dream lifestyle. You're imagining what it would be like to smell that kind of lifestyle, taste it, and experience it, feel it, hear it in all five senses, and then make it specific. Where, when, what, why, how, who. And as you do that, the more specific it becomes, the more real it becomes to you. It's not just an imagination. It becomes something that makes you into a magnet where those things start to come to you. But that's just one of the questions that you want, that we're going to talk about here today. Now, I want to give you what I call a clarity hack. That means something you can do right now to help you figure out what it is you really want. And this clarity hack is something that could help you overcome the challenges in your life. For example, I want you to think of a problem that you have right now. Some problem that maybe forms the basis of you feeling stuck, or you feeling that you're not getting to where you want fast enough. Maybe it's a problem with time. Maybe you're just too busy. There's so many things to do in a day. I want you to imagine that was gone, that you didn't have that as a challenge in your life, that you actually had no limitations in terms of your time. You had more time to do everything you really wanted to do. I want you to imagine what that would be like, to remove that barrier. Maybe it's an issue with the way you're thinking. Maybe you're one of the many of us who procrastinate. Maybe that's a roadblock or an issue that you're dealing with. What if magically we could take away that challenge in your life so you were no longer a procrastinator? When you looked at the things you had to do that day, you got it done. You just moved forward with it. You just overcame it. You just did it. I want you to imagine what that would be like if you removed those barriers, if you just erased them and they no longer became something that held you back, and that you could move effortlessly towards what you really want. What do you want to do if you had no barriers like that? Would you write a book? Would you build a house, or would you build a company? Would you find a relationship in your life? Would you lose 50 pounds? I mean, what is it that you would do if the barriers were gone in your life? What if there was no failure? What if there was no way you could fail? You just decided what you wanted and off you went. I want you to imagine just for a moment that you dropped those issues that seem to be the things that hold you back, and imagine what it would be like without that. And I want you to imagine that, hey, this is what I really want. Because sometimes we are all faced with so many challenges in our daily life that we don't have time to dream. And I want you to think, what would I do if I didn't have a job? What would I do if I didn't have these money pressures? What would I do with my life if I didn't have this health issue that I'm dealing with? I want you to go there with me right now. And that starts to reveal for you what it is you really, really want. It's what I call your prime drive. It's just things you would do if you didn't have the issues that sometimes hold us back. It's your prime drive. It's the thing that pushes you. And it's that thing that pulls you to it. Your prime drive. What is that for you? I've discovered what that is for me. And when I get up in the morning, I know exactly what I want to do. And although I may have challenges all around me, I focus in determined ways towards accomplishing what I really want. And one of the things I really want is to be here with you right now. This is my prime drive. This is what I do. I'm in my 70s now, and the time is waning, but I want to make sure that I've been able to reach as many people as I can, like yourself. So once again, this hack is for you to let go of the challenges that hold you back and discover what your prime drive is. That's question number one. What do I really, really, really want? But remember, you can say that today, but the sun is going to go down tonight and you're going to sleep. And when that sun comes up in the next morning, it starts all over again. And if you don't ask yourself by looking yourself in the mirror that morning, what do I really, really want? Not only for this day, for this year, for this 5 years, for this 10, maybe for my lifetime. If you don't have that as a prime drive motivator, then life just gets in the way. And it just steals away little pieces of you every single day. And therefore you end up being ordinary instead of extraordinary or even legendary. So that's where I want you to be. Legendary. That's the way legends think. So in a second, we're going to go to what I call question number 2. Are you ready? And question number 2. Well, you know that a dream without a plan is just a wish, and wishes don't work. And therefore, if you don't attach a plan to your want, it just doesn't normally happen. So that next question that we want to ask is, what is my plan? And when you're looking yourself in the mirror in the morning, what do I really want? And what's my plan? Now, let's go out 5 years into the future. Let's say this is 5 years from now. And let's set it 5 years because it's easy to chunk down into a 5-year plan. Usually 10-year plans, 20-year plans are not quite realistic because things can change. So I think 5 years is a very good time frame. And therefore, you go out 5 years from now and you ask yourself, what's my plan? Well, you ask yourself, what are the 3 things I want to accomplish 5 years from now? What are 3 things that are so important to me that you're willing to take sacrifices today on a daily basis to make sure that those 5-year ideals actually happen? And why ideals? You know, well, we've been talking about it. This is what pulls you towards it. The imagination pushes you to this spot. And therefore, I want you to select some things that you could really put your teeth into. If I say, now, I want you to select 3 things. Not 4, not 5, not 10. I have a friend of mine who said you should have 1,000 goals because that expands your mind. And I'm just the exact opposite. I like Steve Jobs. You know, every year he would gather his employees at a weekend retreat. And they would brainstorm all weekend long exactly what Apple could do over the next year to make Apple great and legendary. And after arguing for the entire weekend, they'd come up with a list of 10 in order of what they thought was important. And at the end of the weekend, Steve Jobs would cross out the bottom 7 and he would say, we can only do these 3. Now, using that kind of mentality, I want you to select 3 things that you really are willing to commit yourself to. And I call those ideals. And let's break our 5-year plan into 3 basic chunks. There are what I would call 5-year ideals. And these ideals are things that you really, really, really want, and you're willing to invest your time and effort to get them. Then 1 year from now is another good time frame. And in this 1 year period of time, we're going to get some things done. And that's the word we're going to use, dones. A done is something that you commit to doing. And therefore, when you write it down, in my mind, it should be done. It may not have happened yet, but when you write it down, you give your word and you say, in this next year, there'll be many things in my life that will get accomplished. But these 3 that will take me towards my ideals, these 3 must be done this year. And the very next year, you'll choose 3 more dones. And the year after that, 3 more, until eventually those 3 dones eventually grow into the ideals that you want. That brings us to the one day. What do you need to do today? And although we call these dones, let's be even more insistent. Let's call the one day things that you do musts. What must you do today so that what you want gets done, and so that what you envision for your life is ideally what actually happens in your life? This is a kind of a visual way of explaining all the many details that are going on in your life. And remember, you're being overwhelmed with so many opportunities, so many things you could do, so many projects that you could invest your time into. And if you don't select a few and therefore say no to everything else so that you're focused and determined, if you don't do that, that's why you're overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed because there's just so much that you could do. When you select 3, then eventually, and focus those dones so that you must do those things every day, it simplifies it. You almost don't even need to write it down. You just know what they are. And when you wake up in the morning, yes, there'll be a million things you could do that day. But the question you should ask yourself is, what is my plan? And that's a simple plan for you to write down. And that brings us to the third question. And that third question is, what can I do now? Let's write that down. What can I do now? I do a lot of speaking Japanese, and the Japanese say the word for now is ima. When I say ima, they know exactly what I mean. They mean now. So when you wake up in the morning, those are the activities you want to focus on. Things that you can get done now that will take you towards what you really want. Now, question number 3 is really where the ordinary to-do list comes into place, because people wake up in the morning and they have a pattern for how to do their to-do list. It's usually on a blank piece of paper. They ask themselves the question either the night before or that morning, what do I need to do today? Well, they don't ask the first 2 questions. They just think about all the millions of things that they could possibly do. Buy a pair of socks, take the kids to get them vaccinated or whatever it happens to be. And unfortunately, there are thousands of things you could do every day, but only a few things that you do every day actually take you here. The rest of them take you anywhere else. And almost that's why most people are so scattered in their thinking. What I want you to decide is not only what's my plan, but what can I do towards this now? And what are the things on my to-do list that are the most important? Now, like I said, every day you get up in the morning and you write down your to-do list and you cross things off. And you think they're done. Well, if they don't take you to where you want to go, then they probably don't need to be done, do they? So the very first question is, what do I really want? Those are the things I want to put on my to-do list. And everybody else usually does an ordinary to-do list with dozens of little things to do, and they cross them off one at a time. You've done this, I've done this. And then usually at the end, there are a few biggies left on that to-do list. At the end of the day, your energy is a little tired, and you say, well, tomorrow, we'll work on those tomorrow. And that's where the procrastination comes, because we think we've got lots done that day, but truthfully, the only things that really needed to get done that day were the things that didn't get crossed off. And frankly, the ideals that you have for your life never get crossed off your to-do list. When you cross things off, it doesn't mean that they're done. It means that they are just removed from your mindset. But from, frankly, a legend never forgets what he or she wants. They are relentless. They're moving forward every single day. And so when people cross things off their to-do list, they feel like they are successful. They give a little buzz like, oh, that feels good. Have you ever gone to the end of a day and forgot that you did something, but you hadn't written it on your to-do list, then you write it down and then cross it off. I mean, people do this because they're addicted to crossing things off. What I want you to do to write on your to-do list are the few things that you need to get done, that must get done that day. And those are the things you cross off first. Everything else you can procrastinate. And the word procrastination is a very powerful word. You might think I don't like that word. You might think that's a terrible word. But legends are the best procrastinators. Why? Because when they get up in the morning, they know what needs to get done for them to live their ideal lifestyle. So they do those things first. And they procrastinate everything else. They say no to everything else. Whereas ordinary people just do exactly the opposite. They find all the little things and they cross them off as if they're accomplishing things by doing that. And then the things that are really important, they are always there. They just never get attacked because they're always pushing things off. They are reverse procrastinating. Essentially, what I want you to do is to decide what you want and then do those things first. That's what legends do, the bottom line. So this focus on what it is, when you wake up in the morning, you're focused and you're looking at the picture of what you're trying to accomplish. In your mind, there's just a few things. I want this, therefore I must get this done. Therefore today are the 3 things that I'll do every day, and they'll cross those off my list. So the get it done hack. So remember, if you want to be here, you want to get it done, the hack is simple. It's a question you ask yourself every time something comes into your vision and tempts you, distracts you from what you really, really, really want. And you ask yourself the simple question, will this take me toward what I want or away from what I want? And more than not, when you ask yourself that simple question, it will be really obvious to you. You'll say, well, frankly, this will slow me down. This will take me in a different direction. This will not take me to my ideal lifestyle. Now, that's when you have to have the courage. You have to have the willpower to be able to overcome that. And willpower is good, and willpower can also be a problem in most people's lives. And we'll talk about that here in just a minute. Bottom line is 3 questions. What do I really want? What's my plan? What can I do now? That brings us to question number 4. Question number 4. What could stop me? Now, you'd think that I'm a positive thinker and that the last thing that I should do is actually bring into my mind things that are negative, things that maybe would lower my energy. But frankly, if that's not part of your thinking, if you haven't at least gone into the future and anticipated what might stop you from accomplishing these ideals, then that's kind of wishful thinking, isn't it? In other words, I want you to actually step back for a moment and ponder that. Let's see, what could stop me? How could I be slowed down or derailed from this process? And I've broken down those fundamental things that stop most people, the challenges that derail most people, into what I call the 5 biggies. So let me erase this here and share with you exactly the process that legends go through in their mind. We know we want to get here. And frankly, although I caused you to imagine that these barriers have been removed from your life, most people are still stuck in what I call the prison of fear, the prison of limiting thinking. And to get to our ideal lifestyle is a climb. It's a daily push. You can't just coast your way to the top. None of the legends got there by just hoping or wishing. They had to work at it daily. They were driven. That's one of the characteristics of a legend. They're driven. Are you driven to what you really want? Well, in your lifetime, you're going to have what I call the whirlwind of all the millions of things you could do that day. And what a legend does, even in the midst of this maelstrom, in the midst of this hurricane that goes on, and the millions of things they could do, they clarify themselves so they know what are the things I really want, and I'm going to have to invest some enormous energy to clear out a part of my life, a part of my day. I might be busy doing lots of things, but at a certain time in my day, I'm going to focus on what I really, really want. It may be only a half an hour. It may be an hour. It may be 2 or 3 hours. But during that day, the legends are focused, and they are able to put everything off. And they escape the whirlwind through sheer will, basically. They basically shut out the world. And they focus in on their dreams for that day, their musts, right? And this whirlwind, very few people actually are able to escape it. That's why everybody tells you, I'm overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed, and this is what they're describing, overwhelmingness, right? As the legends escape this the overwhelm, and they start to focus on a few things they do every day, they enter into a period of time I call the learning curve. And all legends have to learn how to do things in a new way. They have new skills that they're learning, new things that they're learning in the process, new businesses they're launching, new projects that they're creating that require a different mindset. And so this learning curve for most people is really leaving your normal, ordinary life and going through a process of learning. And that usually means that you have to fail sometimes. That's one of the problems with the learning curve. It looks like you're failing. It looks like you're slowing down. It looks like you're, at first, just like learning a new golf swing. You know, if you've never golfed before, it takes a while to get that groove. And while you're getting that groove, you look pretty foolish. In this process of what I call the learning curve, which is the second major obstacle that slows people down. So once you've gone through the whirlwind and through the learning curve, then the next thing that gets almost every one of us is what I call the marshmallow. And the marshmallow refers to those little tiny distractions that almost overwhelm every single person. Comes from some research that was done in the 1960s at Stanford University about a professor that wanted to see how willpower was built with little kids, and he put kids in a room all by themselves at a table and a marshmallow in front of them and said, if you don't eat this marshmallow, I'll give you 2. And so the researcher left the room and the kid looked at that marshmallow, and some of them, 2/3 of them, gobbled the marshmallow, couldn't wait. 1/3 had the willpower or the strategy for pushing off the marshmallow until they could double their marshmallows. So the bottom line is it's the thing that attacks almost everybody. It comes on your cell phone how many times a day? I think I've already referred to that. The point is, it's time for you to make a decision. Does this get me closer to my goal or further away? And every time, almost 1,000 times a day, you have to make that decision. Then the next one that almost gets everybody is what I call the cliff. And the cliff is the fear. Something in your life causes you to be terrified. Everybody has a fear that slows them down. It could be a fear of rejection. It could be a fear of selling something to somebody. It could be a fear of learning all the details of, if you're in a real estate investment, for example, and you're afraid to go make an offer to somebody. You might have done everything else and planned and organized and avoided the distractions, but hey, you got to make the offer. You don't make the offer, you don't get the deal. You don't get the deal, you don't end up in the ideal lifestyle. I mean, this, as an entrepreneur, there's just like a dozen of these kinds of cliffs that you have to climb every day. And are you willing to do that? And then I think the final thing that kind of slows everybody down, remember the question is, what could stop me? And the reason you see legends is because nothing would stop them. they just would not be stopped. They had the same whirlwind that we do, and the learning curves and the marshmallows and the cliffs. Sometimes it's a disaster. A cloud comes over and there's a huge storm and a lightning burst, and sometimes it's a sudden storm. Something sudden happens to knock you off the path. Maybe it's an illness. Maybe it's a loss of an investment. Maybe it's somebody that you love leaves you. Or maybe it's somebody dies around you. Something usually happens, a sudden storm that you hadn't thought about. Do you know what my sudden storm was? It was an avalanche. In 1986, we had a beautiful mountain home in Sundance Ski Resort, and an avalanche came down. Could we have planned that? No, we couldn't have anticipated how that avalanche would send my finances down the hill along with it. And it took years to recover. But once again, I would not stop. It was a sudden storm that definitely derailed me, but it wouldn't eventually stop me. So somewhere along the line, this happens to every single one of us. And by anticipating what some of these things might be, guess what happens? It takes the power out of being surprised by something you hadn't thought of. So this is kind of like a summary of some of the challenges that stop us. And it's just part of the life of the legend. They almost are tested time and time again with different kinds of challenges that can either stop them or slow them down, or can become something that moves them forward. Sometimes it can be a motivating thing where they say, throw me the best you got, and I'm not going to stop. So these challenges are going to happen to you. And if you don't ask yourself that question every day, like, am I ready to be a hero? Am I really ready to do what it takes? When you anticipate it and think about it in advance, something happens where you commit that day, whatever happens today cannot stop me. Now, there's something that usually people don't think about, and that is usually hidden behind the people that are around you. There's a champion, there's somebody or something that happens to propel you toward what you really want. Somebody to help you, to give you a little support. When I had a huge financial catastrophe in my life, a friend came out of the woodwork, as they say, and he was there to help support me. His name is Tom. Thank you, Tom. I needed you at that time. You were my champion at that time. And I've tried to be, just like others have been for me, I've tried to be a champion to other people. Because all around you, you see people that are failing, that are trying and struggling and quitting. And sometimes you need to be the champion to help lift somebody else. But at least you need to be looking, to be anticipating, where is the champion going to come from? Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. But when they do come, you need to thank the universe. Thank you for the champions that show up, because you were committed, you were determined, you were willing to do whatever it took, and therefore people just seemed to come. When I wrote my very first book, I took an enormous risk and I quit the career I was pursuing, and I wrote this crazy book called Nothing Down, a proven program that shows you how to buy real estate with little or no money down. I had the manuscript on my hand, but how do you get a manuscript published? And people just started to come. I looked, but I found people that would help support me to help answer the questions that I couldn't answer for myself. So whether it's challenges that challenge you, or whether it's champions that help lift you at the right time, you have to kind of be anticipating both of those. And that's why I asked the question, what could stop me? And who might support me? So these four questions, they're really kind of like your checklist or your to-do list. Because once you answer these questions, the things that you need to do, There are a few simple things that you need to do every day to move you relentlessly, just determinedly towards what you really want. So that brings us to question number 5. Now, question number 5. What is my framework? Let's write that down. What is the framework around you? Because I'll tell you what happens with entrepreneurs. They are, to a fault, they want to do it by themselves. They are self-determined. They want to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And this is good. This is somebody who is independent, who wants to make things happen and move towards what they really want. But that is also what my mentor Stephen Covey would teach me. There is dependency, and there's independency, and there's interdependency. And independency, which is where most people are, they're stuck in independence because they think, I can do this by myself. And that is a huge mistake. It's something you need to really understand. The framework around you is just not you. You're not the only person that makes this happen. As a matter of fact, you can't make this happen by yourself. You have to open up your mind and your maturity. It's becoming more mature is growing beyond being independent to being interdependent. And willpower doesn't work. See, you think you could will yourself to do everything you really wanted to do. And yes, willpower is important, but it wears out. At the end of the day, when you're a little more tired, your willpower weakens. And that's usually during those weak times is when you make mistakes. And sometimes you need a team around you, a support team, who can see the blind spots that you cannot see. Yeah, you got a smart brain. In fact, your brain is the most powerful computer in the universe. But by itself, it cannot see the spots that are blinding around you to the mistakes that you might make. And so when you have a team, an infrastructure, a framework of people around you, they can spot these things. They can give you some advice. They can actually add pieces to your powerful brain that you don't know how to do, because each of us has strengths and each of us has weaknesses. So you want a team of people around you that can help you fill in with the weaknesses that you have. So it's like your brain is a server, right? Your brain is unlimited amount of data that can be stored in your single brain. But all by itself, it's not powerful enough. You want to have a server farm. In other words, other servers that are around you that can link up to yours. So it now becomes a super computer. And usually what you'll find is that people who are too independent, they won't invite other people onto their team with them because they want to control everything. And unfortunately, you have to relinquish some of that control. And that's scary for many people. Bottom line is, you have to ask yourself the question, what's the framework around me? And how do I invite people carefully onto my team, onto my server farm, if you will, to give me unlimited power? And how you organize that, what I call the accountability framework. It's, you see, if you ever, well, I have, you ever tried to lose weight, for example, and if it's just you, and in your weak spots, you have difficulty failing. But if there was somebody you could report to, just a little text every single day, some structure around you, some framework around you, that would be the accountability framework, powerful. I've taught hundreds of seminars all throughout the years, thousands of success students, and we send them out in the world to go try to do that on their own, and we achieved great success from that. Then one time when I was in Malaysia, I set up teams into small groups, and I said throughout the year, You're going to have to meet every week, and you have to text each other every single day. The success rates went through the roof because when a person is not independent anymore, when they're interdependent, when they're helping each other, it's magical, it's powerful. Now, how to set that up, we don't have time to go into that in this particular class. There are other trainings that I'll take you through where you set up that infrastructure. But what I want you to realize is that it's a question you should ask yourself every day as I go out into the world to make my legendary decisions. There are legends around me that can support me. So there's a hack I want to teach you when we come to this spot. I want you to decide something on your to-do list. One of the 3 things that you've identified are your musts every day. And pick something that you can do in a day. Just 24 hours. Not something that's going to take you many, many weeks to accomplish, but something that once you say you're going to do it, it can be done. I want you to select one thing. Maybe it's something you've been putting off. Maybe it's a call to somebody you're afraid to talk to, or an email that gets your heart a little pounding, or maybe it's going to the gym. Maybe you wanted to do that, but you've been procrastinating it. Or maybe it's maybe just walking around the block. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It's just something you can do that you've been putting off. I want you to select somebody on your to-do list, somebody that you know, someone that is on your database of people that you know, friends, family, business associates. Pick somebody, doesn't matter who. And I want you to text them or email them or even call them. And you don't even have to tell them why. You don't have to tell them that, my mentor Robert Allen has challenged me to do this. Just say, listen, I made a decision that I wanted to get this done today, and I'm just going to declare it to you. I'm going to let you know that this is something I'm planning on doing. I'll check up with you tomorrow, and I'll let you know whether I did it or not. It doesn't have to be all that complicated, but the hack is you've let it come out of your mouth. You've declared it. You've now made the structure around you, this infrastructure, a part of the way to help you. It becomes now your accountability network. So as you do this, I want you to hack it. Just try this. Just do this once and notice what happens. Now, if you were to do that every day with somebody on your team, notice how more you would get accomplished because there'd be a 24-hour deadline. Remember what I told you about deadlines, about that 24-hour period of time? If you make commitments in a 24-hour period of time, results start to happen. So finally, this is your $1 million to-do list. It's not a series of activities that you do. It's a series of very profound questions that you ask yourself. And the answer to these profound questions are the things that bubble up that you know you need to do to make the dream happen for you. So what do you really want as you look yourself in the mirror in the morning? What do I really want today? Well, what do I really want 5 years from now? What do I want from my life? Do I want to be a legend or do I want to just be an ordinary person? If I want to be a legend, then what's my plan? And what can I do about it now, today? You have a penchant for nowness, for activity right now. What could stop you? Sometimes when you're a legend, you actually welcome a challenge. Like, bring it on. Sometimes you declare it, hoping somebody thinks you're crazy. And therefore these basic, ordinary types of challenges and the champions that support you is what you have to be anticipating constantly. And then finally, without a framework, you're just all by yourself, a single server in this huge building, all by yourself. You need to hook yourself up to a server farm as soon as you possibly can. This is the $1 million to-do list. Do this, and one day you'll look back on today and you'll say, that session with Robert was worth $1 million.